There is a lot of bugs, glitches, and exploits in Payday 2. Some are minor, insignificant bugs, be it just some visual glitches or something absolutely useless, but occasionally there are some that are just beyond understanding. And Speedrunner took full advantage of it. Today we will talk about how Speedrunner broke Payday 2. There are 6 important bugs that Speedrunner use. In the early days of Payday 2's existence, or at least as early as the end of Payday the Heist life cycle, there used to be a bug where player could warp. Even though Overkill used Diesel Engine 2.0 for Payday 2's release version, a bug from Payday the Heist found its way into Payday 2 and has been present in the game for almost a year after the initial release. The bug was fixed on May 27, 2014. In update number 28. Although the bug was only in the game in less than a year, it did cause quite a bit of confusion among players when they accidentally warped around. The bug was discovered by the Payday the Heist speedrunning community around 1 year before the release of No Mercy on Payday 2. Additionally, the warp bug has been in Payday the Heist since it released, and the Payday the Heist speedrun community notice a pattern with player warping around when they are on a shield. Wicket, one of the speedrun member of Payday the Heist community, did a lot of tests on shield warping bug. Later, he found out that player can warp using any movable object. So, how does the bug work, you may ask? Payday 2 saves your position on solid objects like ground, stairs, catwalk, etc. The game also saves your posture state. Usually this doesn't matter, since the player will be moving around and standing up or crouching a lot, so the game will keep updating their position and posture. The problem occurs when the player does that on top of a movable object. When a player is on top of such object, if they change up their model state by crouching or standing up, the game will save that player's position on it. And if the object is moved while the player position and posture are still saved on it, once said player updates their position either by standing up or crouching, the game will warp the player to the correct location. Here's a video footage of my bank heist speedrun in update number 24. I rushed into the bank and knocked down a sign. That sign is a solid object. I can stand on the sign without phasing through it, and I can move it around. I moved it a little further than the exit door because the distance from the door to the cabinet, it's good enough for me to warp onto the table inside of the vault. For context, Overkill developers had done everything to patch every possible way to get inside the vault early by removing the floor before the drill is done, so the only way to get in was to warp to the table inside the vault, which didn't get removed. In order to warp, we need to save a posture and position on the sign. After that, when the sign got moved, it will save the distance it travels. And then, if we change back to the saved posture, the game will warp us to the correct location, which is equal to the distance the sign got moved. After the bug was discovered, more technique was made for the warp bug. From just normal warping, now we have double warp and using enemy as object to warp or double warp. Here's a video example of how to do the double warp. The player needs to do the prep for a normal warp. After that, you will need to save a different position and state on the same object. This means the player needs to change posture on top of the prepped object. To explain this further, you will be forced to proceed with the first warp. This will save your position and state on the object for the second warp after you did the first warp, but you will need to move the object in order to do another warp. This is why Speedrunner either find a way to shoot back outside to move the object, or they'll use grenade. To do enemy warp, it's not hard, but It is annoying to do. You will need to stand on top of the enemy and make them move, either by meleeing them or wait for them to move. The enemy in Payday the Heist doesn't have the ability to melee player, so it was easier than Payday 2 version where the enemy will instantly melee the player when they got close. For double warp on enemy, you will need to do the same thing as double warp on object, but now you do it on the enemy, which means you will have to make the enemy move the way you want without killing them. For enemy warping technique, if the enemy that you're using to warp, die, or despawn, the warp will be deleted if you're trying to do a normal warp or double warp. It is quite unfortunate that the bug only exists until update 27, which the game doesn't have that much heist to run it with. However, the bug is still really useful for heists like jewelry store, Ukrainian job, fire starter, bank heist, and big oil. It saves a lot of time, and the biggest shave off time was bank heist, from 4 minutes and 30 seconds to only 56 seconds. Even though the bug was patched, at the very least, we don't have to use the RNG lamp anymore. Loot duping was discovered in the early day of Payday 2. It used to help speedrunner reduce the required amount of bag they needed to secure. To explain loot duping in Payday 2, the game has an area trigger specifically for the loot, and when a loot bag enters that area trigger, it will update the counter, remove the bag, and spawn a default bag model in the escape vehicle. Loot duping happen when a loot bag passed through that area trigger multiple times. For example, around pre-update number 67, on Firestarter, you can dupe the weapon bag by throwing it vertically next to the van, because the area trigger was a bit chunky. So when you throw the bag vertically next to the van, the bag passed through the area trigger multiple times. This can also be done on Shadow Raid. The bug was partially fixed on update number 67 because this is still doable in one of the game's newest heists, Lost in Transit, by throwing the bag in this small gap of the train and shooting it with the Akimbo Grim using explosive round. You will be able to dupe it because it's bouncing up and down at the area trigger. Levi Barber, the one in the video, discovered a new technique recently for loot duping that eradicated the infamy percent speedrun category. It's so broken that a separate category had to be made because the dupe shaved off at least 30 minutes for solo infamy speedrun. From running one of the most recent heists, Hostile Takeover, he discovered that you can use the golf cart to dupe loot bag by activating the loot secure trigger and put the bag into the golf cart simultaneously. By abusing this bug, Levi is able to beat Hostile Takeover in 2 minutes and 13 seconds, while Zombie lowered the solo infamy world record to only 15 minutes and 13 seconds. For more details, this is how the bug works. Using Zombie's footage of him duping weapon bags on Midland Ranch, we can see 2 area triggers. He throws the weapon bag in between the secure loot area trigger and the put loot into the golf cart area trigger. This will tell the game that he has secured 1 weapon bag, but the bag will still be present due to Overkill's developers' desire to make it look better and smoother by putting a small delay before making the bag completely inactive. There's a small issue with that. The problem occurs when the bag also passes the put loot into the golf cart area trigger. Because of that small delay, the bag is now able to be put into the trunk of the golf cart at the same time as it is being secure into the truck, resulting in a dupe. You can do this over and over again indefinitely. The bag count and the experience, depend on the heist you played, can go up infinitely until you wish to stop. That's how the new technique works. This bug can easily be fixed just by making every loot secure trigger have no delay. This will give no room for the bug to happen. The new technique for loot duping is also game breaking. It can help anyone reach level 100 in a short period of time while gaining a massive amount of money. Out of bound is one of the most overused bug in many games, Payday 2 included. It's a bug where player need to do a certain action on a certain spot, and the result is the player got out of bound. Out of bound has been used on many heists, saving a lot of time by skipping objectives. For example, Golden Grin Casino, the heist shows that you have to do a lot of objectives in order to get the mysterious box. By going out of bound, you can skip all of those objectives and go straight into the vault and grab the box. Either going out of bound to skip objective or entering area beforehand seem useful, but there is some restriction for going out of bound. There are some area trigger that got put around the heist for different purposes. For example, it could trigger a waypoint system to give a waypoint, or it could trigger the next objective by being in a different part of the heist. By going out of bound and enter a locked area beforehand, you could enter an area trigger by mistake and softlock the heist. A good example for this would be Brooklyn 1010. Speedrunners had discovered a lot of tricks to get out of bound, but those tricks become useless because the heist was designed to be played in order, like a chain of objective. The heist has a bunch of area trigger to tell the game where the player is, and if the player is in an area that they're not supposed to be in yet, the game will soft lock itself. There are a lot of ways to get out of bound. Either parkour your way out of bound, or wiggle your way through a wall or floor. The wiggle was the most popular way to get out of bound. Based on the out of bound spot you're doing, there will be many ways to do the wiggle. The basic one, for example, would be Golden Grin Casino. Everyone has their own way to do it. For me, I pressed W and D in a rhythm until the game tried to drop me through the floor. A timed crouch with the drop will let you go through the floor. When you reach a certain level, there will be a teleport trigger. That trigger will teleport the player back to the closest surface, and it also teleports the player to the location where the player was when they activate the teleport trigger. Interestingly, in multiplayer, if a player activates the teleport trigger, it will teleport that player to either the only player in the lobby or the closest player. It also kept your posture after teleport you back to the surface. This creates a new way to use out-of-bound TP. With this info, speedrunners have created more strategies around it. For example, a player can position themselves where they can't stand up. The out-of-bound player can now teleport to that player while still standing up to get through the ceiling. One small thing about the teleport trigger is that vehicle when fall out of bound will either softlock or crash the game because the developer didn't think that player can send a vehicle into the out-of-bound area. For more out-of-bound spots, check out our out-of-bound list. It contains at least 100 spots with details like location, tutorial, and the uses of the out-of-bound. Out-of-bound gives speedrunner a huge advantage. It's also effective and not really hard to do. That's why most speedrunners use it. Out-of-bound is also one of the oldest bugs in Payday 2 that haven't been fully fixed because anything the developers put down could create an out-of-bound spot. And any attempt to fix it via moving the object in the map around can also create different or more out-of-bound spot. Pause, buffering, slope, hyperspeed, or PBSH got introduced into Payday 2 as a fix for a bug that caused losing momentum when pausing in mid-air in offline mode. Later on, Overkill's developer decided to fix PBSH by unfix the losing momentum when pausing in mid-air bug. Changing the pause method from removing all momentum after unpause to return the exact speed the player have while on mid-air. Player won't lose their momentum whenever they pause the game mid-air. Normal player will see it as a quality of life change since they won't be losing any momentum anymore. A speedrunner with the name Pizza Yum Yum noticed something's off when he paused the game while moving up a slope. Combined with the extra speed from Second Wind and Yakuza perk deck, he noticed that he got more speed after he unpaused the game. After that, he tried to spam the pause button while moving up a slope, and that's how PBSH was discovered. After PBSH was discovered, it impacted every single heist. You can use PBSH on every heist, even if it didn't have any significant skip. With the speed it produced, you can travel as fast as a player that have speed boosts from Yakuza Perk Deck, Running from Death, and Second Wind, all active at the same time. And even with all these speed boosts, it can only beat PBSH by 1 second in a 200 meters race. And the worst part is, that's just a basic PBSH technique. The speed of PBSH depend on your FPS and how fast you spam pause. If you spam pause fast, you'll get more speed, but if you spam pause fast and have a low FPS, you will speed up tremendously. PBSH also only work when you're on mid-air, and if you're always on mid-air, your speed will build up infinitely until you hit the floor. Like every other game, Payday 2 have a slope or stair problem. Even though you're technically not on mid-air while going up the slope and use PBSH, you will still speed up. At this point, we are entering the Todd Howard area of It Just Works. As I talked about PBSH being dependent on FPS before and how low FPS make you speed up faster, but in this case, it's the opposite. A new technique had been discovered recently, and it is about this fast food cart. The fast food cart can be destroyed, and the roof of the cart can be used to PBSH. The more frame you have, the more powerful the launch become, and you don't need to spam pause. What you only need to do is time the pause once. PBSH can be done on any heist, and it gives a lot of benefit for Speedrunner. From a huge speed boost on lower FPS to flying out of bound with no drawback, that's why Speedrunner usually downpatch to around update number 181 to pre-update number 199 to speedrun. The sniper bug is a new and unique bug. It got added in from the new RNG2 sniper in the McShay Weapon Pack 3 DLC. The unique part of this bug is, it created an invisible collision that player can stand on. When you combine the Copycat Super Weapon Swap Speed perk with this bug, you can start climbing up buildings. Levi Barber demonstrates this bug perfectly by climbing up the Mountain Master building. The bug is useful for heists that need player to get over the giant invisible wall, or at least to get out of bound. With this sniper bug, some of the heists become possible for solo player to speedrun using the co-op route. For example, Diamond Heist. In Diamond Heist, the out-of-bound route can only be done in co-op because when you get into the vault area by using an out-of-bound spot, you will be stuck in the vault with no way out. In co-op, you will need one more player to use the same out-of-bound spot to get to another area outside of the vault where that player can grab the diamond bag through wall. Recently, Levi has found a way to get out of bound while being inside of the vault. By using the collision of the sniper bug, you can squeeze yourself in a shaky spot and the game will drop you out of bound. Doing so will get you out of the vault and you can proceed to do the co-op route solo. The bug isn't just helped solo speedrunner but for co-op speedrunners as well. In co-op Counterfeit, Green Bridge, Black Cat, Brooklyn Bank and many more got improved with the sniper bug. It was used to get out of bound and either get into a locked area or get to the escape early. It's pretty simple to do the sniper bug. All you have to do is buying the McShay Weapon Pack 3 for $3.99 or the Hostile Takeover bundle for $9.99.
Buy it now.
This video is not sponsored by Starbreeze. To use the sniper bug, all you have to do is equip the RNG2 sniper with a fast swap speed primary and the Copycat perk deck. You will also need bot speed boost if you don't want to put skill point into overkill aced. Every time you switch weapon to the sniper, it will create an invisible collision. From that, if you want to go higher, you can jump on top of the invisible collision, do the process again on top of it while timing the jump. If done correctly, you can slowly climb up high places. This bug can also be used to push yourself slowly when downed. The bug was discovered fairly quickly by the community since it hindered player movement, but it also got fixed fairly quickly as well. The bug affected a decent amount of heist for Speedrunner to use. Before we get into the last important bug, here's some honorable bugs that didn't make the list. Alpha from the futures here. There was some development happened after this video is finalized. So, before we get into the honorable bug list, here's what we found in a span of couple of months. When the sniper bug was discovered, we Speedrunner have been theorizing the possibility of it being a deployable out of bounds. In the recent month, Levi and Expo discovered that the sniper bug can be used to either go through wall or go through floor. Found by Levi, to do the sniper wall clip, you will need to hold your Aaron sniper first, go into a corner, place your crosshair about 60 degrees, and move forward a small distance. When you're in position, you can now create the invisible hitbox by swapping weapons. Now, the spot between the hitbox and the wall will become a shaky spot, where you can use an out-of-bound technique to phase through wall. Found by Expo, to do the sniper floor clip, similar to the sniper wall clip, instead of looking at 60 degrees, you will now look at about 30 degrees, crouch walk a small distance forward but a bit further than the sniper wall clip, create the hitbox, and then floor clip. That's the updated version of the sniper bug. By having 3 ways to get out of bound, it gives Speedrunner more reason to play on update 233. And now, we can return on the honorable bug that didn't make the list. The grenade jump is a minor bug that caused by throwable collision. Most of the throwable don't have collision, except Smoke Grenade from Sicario perk deck, the Viper Grenade, and the new Adhesive Grenade. When throw, these grenades will have a collision for a few frames. If timed correctly, you can jump on top of the grenade collision and get a double jump. The bug was used for Boiling Point to get out of the EMP bomb area just by jumping on some railing, and then go out of bound through the window that have no invisible wall. It can also be used in Brooklyn Bank to get out of bound by getting on top of the bank roof. Unfortunately, after the discovery of the sniper bug, this bug become obsolete, unless you used it on current patch. The teleporting loot bag is an exploit using bot. When Overkill upgrade the bot, they also give the bot the ability to carry bag. However, Speedrunners figured out that if you put a bag on the bot and then remove the bot by having another player join, the bag will now teleport to the closest player to that bot. The reason why this exploit works is because when a bot get removed and replaced by a player, the bot will teleport to the closest player first, and then the bot get replaced by the player. And the bot also were carrying a bag, the bag will get teleported as well with the bot. And when the player spawn in, the bag will be dropped off from that player. This greatly reduces the time it takes to carry bag to escape because Speedrunner will just teleport the bag to the secure area in an instant. Unfortunately, the exploit only works on heist that needed to move one important bag in a long distance. For example, Boiling Point and Hoxton Breakout Day 2. Animation Desync is a bug that can only be used in offline mode. It's a bug where if you on lower FPS and far away from either an animated object or person, when you spam pause, the animation will start to desync. For example, in Goat Simulator, the escape truck will come from far away. You can use animation desync to make the truck going in a completely different direction. Another example would be Biker Heist. You could use animation desync to the SWAT van that have a turret on it. The turret is depended on where the SWAT van is. So when you use the animation desync on the SWAT van, it will be in a different spot that give you an advantage. There are not many uses in Speedrun with this bug. It's only useful for Goat Simulator with the truck being in a different location. So Speedrunner can pre-place the goat and the car to instantly escape. In a lot of single-player game, there is a mode called New Game Plus. In this mode, the player will start over but kept every item and level from when the player beat the game. Recently, speedrunners discover a bug that did similar things like the New Game Plus mode. The bug can only be done in co-op because when the host restart a heist, the game will restart everything and remove all item from player inventory. Strangely, the client can bypass this and keep all their item in their inventory. A timed interaction with a bit of desync will somehow let the client player keep the item that got picked up. The item that got picked up will now be stored into the restarted heist, but the item that got stored over can't be used by that client player. That player need to leave so they can transfer the item to the host or other client player, and then the player in that lobby can now use that item in the heist. The reason why this bug works like this is because if a player has an item in their inventory, when the host restart the heist, the game will remove all item in their inventory. However, because the client player can be desynced to the host, so when the host restart the heist right before the item registered into the desynced player inventory but not on the host side, the item will be registered as picked up after the restart happened. This bypassed the game ability to remove item from player inventory because it happens after the player picked up the item. Like the name suggests, the client pause is a bug where the client player can pause in an online lobby. It was found a long time ago by having a bad internet connection and by going in and out of online mode really quickly and then swap to offline mode. This confused the game, and when you're in offline mode, you can see online lobby. Joining an online lobby while in offline mode will let the client player with this bug to pause the game while in an online lobby. If the client player with this bug pause the game, it will cause some weird desync between that player and the other players. For example, if the bugged client paused in mid-air, for other players, they will see the bugged player frozen in mid-air, and of course, on the bugged player side, they will see everything frozen in place. When paused, the enemy can shoot at the bugged player, but the bugged player won't get damage from being shot at. Everything will still work correctly. For example, teammate ammo count or teammate health will still track correctly even when they shot their guns or take damage. The bug isn't widely known. That's why there isn't much uses for it at the moment. Recently, Overkill added the Lost Tape button in the heist selection menu. The Lost Tape button, when pressed in offline mode, give you the ability to see online lobby in offline mode.
The hardware that Gage moves falls off the back of trucks.
Collision removal is one of the oldest bug beside the out-of-bound bug. At the beginning of Payday 2, collision removal was known and used on heists like Go Bank, where the player put a civilian in the vault collision and then kill them. The civilian dead body collision will push the vault collision away and player can now go through it. The bug was patched in update number 52 where the developers put an invisible wall inside of the vault door. So you can still technically remove the vault door collision after update number 52, but you can't pass through the vault door. The real update that patched this bug is unknown. After update number 52, this bug faded into oblivion. Around late January 2023, the collision removal bug resurfaced in a form of grenade launcher. Before grenade launcher was found as a tool for removing collision, a small clip that sparked the return of the collision removal was from a player named Teru. He was trying to solo Goat Simulator, and on day 2, something's happened. A goat he threw somehow removed one of the door collision, which sparked curiosity. Speedrunner did a lot of testing, but nothing was found. The conclusion was, goat equal bad. Fast forward around 3 months after the clip was posted, Zombie and Luna want to do more tests on Goat Simulator Day 2, but then an accident happened. Luna shot the Arbiter grenade launcher by mistake and hit the truck, and the truck collision is moved, somehow.
What the fuck is going on? The collisions are gone. What have you done?
Most of the active speedrunner use that info and start doing more testing on Goat Simulator Day 2. They found out that if the player shoot the grenade launcher at a certain angle into a certain spot into the goat, it will move the object collision. As proof, you can see the goat start freaking out or start flying. The bug was put to rest on January 14th, 2023, when the Goat Simulator test run was completed. The bug was deemed only usable when you have a goat. We were wrong. 2 weeks later, the group of Luna, Levi, Expo, and Zombie found out that it worked with normal bag, and one of them asked me to help out. After seeing the clip of them moving the vault door in Meltdown with a loot bag, it made me realize loot bag or any other bag don't have collision. From that point, I figured that it wasn't the goat or the bag, it was the grenade launcher. If you shoot the grenade launcher with the incendiary type at a certain angle into a certain spot near or on the object, it will move it collision. The reason why incendiary worked better than other type of grenade was the incendiary used the same code as the Molotov. After the explosion, the collision of the incendiary shell will still be present, while the other type of grenade don't, and that helped move the collision easier. How the bug work is unknown. All we know about this bug was grenade can push dynamic object, and somehow the animated object is counted as dynamic object. So with this bug, you can basically push almost every important object collision in any heist. There is some animated object that was put on a certain spot that make it near impossible to move it. An example would be the escape door on Hoxton Breakout Day 2. The angle was too small for the bug to work, but then we discovered something that would make this bug rival PBSH or even more broken than PBSH. Sentry has collision, so when you hit the sentry with the grenade launcher shell, it bounced off the sentry and pushed any collision, which means we have a deployable collision to help us move another collision. That's not all, since this bug didn't require player to be in a specific state or in a specific mode. It made the bug easier to achieve than PBSH. And that's not all. The bug can be done in co-op, which means there can be multiple people doing multiple collision removal on multiple objects. And that's not all. You can use this bug on vehicle, and the vehicle is an animated object and dynamic object, which means you're not just moving a collision, you can move the entire vehicle, which also means you can launch vehicle. And that's not all. You can launch the vehicle so fast, it can phase through solid wall and invisible wall. The bug is affected by FPS, which make it a bit more complicated. When playing solo, different FPS only affected the object you're trying to move. It can yield different result. When playing co-op, different FPS can yield different result for each player. For example, if player A are on 60 or more FPS, and player B are on 30 FPS, when player B try to move an object collision on 30 FPS, the object collision will move differently than player A and vice versa. Lastly, object collision will reset when it changes animation. So when you push an object collision, if that object start an animation, it will reset at collision, and you can only move at collision again after its animation is finished. The reason why this bug is one of the oldest bugs in the game, almost as old as Out of Bound, was because you can do this bug with any grenade launcher with any grenade type. So, the first grenade launcher was added into Payday 2 was the GL40 from the Gauge Assault Pack release on September 4th, 2014, which make it an 8-year-old bug. It got amplified by the release of the Butcher's Barbecue Pack on March 26th, 2015, which added the incendiary grenade type. And the bugs shine when the Arbiter got added, which released a year later on November 24th, 2016. With all these bugs in mind, Speedrunner can reduce the time to beat some heist down to less than 30 seconds. It is unfortunate that Speedrunner need to downpatch in order to use some of those bugs, but there are 2 bugs that's still available to use, which is the Out of Bound and the new Rediscover bug, Collision Removal. With these 2 bugs combined, Speedrunner can reduce the time to beat story percent down to around 4 hours for co-op and 5 hours or less for solo. A story percent run is a category where Speedrunner need to beat the entire Payday 2 lore campaign, and originally it was about 7 to 8 hours long for solo and about 6 to 7 hours for co-op. And with these 2 bugs it saves a whopping 3 to 4 hours, shaving off 50 to 60% of the final time. That's it for the video. I would like to give a thank you to all the members from Payday 2 speedrunning community that helped me make this video. A special thanks to Dorentus, a moderator from the Payday the Heist speedrunning community, for giving me more information about the warp bug. Lastly, if you make it to this very end of this video, thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best.
Give it up, gonna be alright.